right, so I just did a video talking about 10th Planet getting burned down, and I got a little bit worked up. So now I'm going to try to, and I'm going to talk about Jon Jones vacating the title and his spat with Dana. Because honestly, this is one of those situations. Normally, I have a lot of, I know people, okay? You're going to start to see a pattern where I say what I think is going on behind the scenes, and I end up being right most of the time. And by the way, we got verification. It's not Connor on his Twitter. It's not Connor on his Twitter. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. I think my viewership is small enough that it won't really matter. But anyway, that is verified now. It's not Connor on the Twitter. What's up, dude? What's up? But anyway, when it comes to this Jon Jones and Dana White thing, I am confused. I think that it's a combination of things. Okay, look, so to lay out the situation, Jon Jones said he would fight Francis Ngannou, but he wanted more money. Okay, so now we all know Jon Jones makes about $5 million when he fights. Okay, significantly less than Conor McGregor for sure, but he does a lot lower numbers. Okay, now I think that there are two things at play here. I think that Jon Jones has an inflated view of his value because had he not had the scandals that he had, he would have been Conor McGregor. I mean, listen, when I don't think people remember how big of a star he was before he hit that woman. I mean, dude, if he had only hit the woman, right? This all started when he hit that woman, did the hit and run on the pregnant woman, jumped. Obviously, he didn't know she was pregnant. Okay, I hate when people are like, oh, he hit the pregnant woman, as if that makes it. He didn't know. He had no idea who was in that car, but he did flee the scene, which is, that is, I guess, the smart thing to do if you're just thinking about yourself and not getting in trouble. If you're drunk when you're driving, if your only concern is not getting in trouble, then fleeing the scene, I guess, is the correct move. Now, if I hit someone and I looked and it was a woman, there's no scenario where I'm running from the scene. But, that's me. And also, I'm not in that situation, so I guess I could say whatever the fuck I want, and who knows if it's actually accurate. But I don't think I would do that. But Jon Jones did that, right? So that's a pretty bad look, right? Huge scandal. He gets stripped. He gets suspended, whatever. If that was his one thing, and he's like, you know what? Listen, I realized I had a problem, and I pulled it together. This is the thing about the substance abuse thing, right? You get one get-out-of-jail-free card with that, and people will 100% let that go. They will wipe the slate clean, right? If you have a drug problem, drinking problem, you acknowledge it, you go to the public, and you're like, listen, I had a problem, I got help, and now I'm better. They will, and you come out and if you're an athlete and you win, right? Or if you're an actor and you start crushing it, like Robert Downey Jr., perfect example, and you don't get in trouble again, you can be just as big of a star, if not bigger. People love a redemption story, okay? When you do that, then you fuck up again, people are not forgiving the second time. And if you fuck up again and again and again, people are just like, okay, guy, come on. Jon Jones, here's what I think. Again, now let's get into something I do have insight into, okay? So the whole thing about Jon with the PEDs, I don't think there's any question about that at this point, right? It's basically confirmed that USADA came to his gym at one point and he hid underneath the octagon for 8 hours, pissed on the ground, that whole story. Everybody has basically acknowledged that that's true. I've never heard Jon Jones come out and deny it, right? I don't think. But either way, it's true. Right? So we know he would have pissed hot whenever that was. And if USADA's testing him, then obviously he's active and fighting. Here's the other thing. If you look at pictures of him, those pictures of him when he's just jacked diesel and people are like, oh, this is when he was doing right. That was when he was suspended. That's what's hilarious, okay? He got suspended for the DUI thing, and then he got that jacked because he was powerlifting. He was doing powerlifting because he wasn't fighting. He was suspended for however long it was. And he was like, and he said it on the Joe Rogan podcast. He's like, I wanted to be the strongest motherfucker in Albuquerque. And yeah, he's an impulsive guy. He's juicing, right? So if he was doing something short acting that wasn't going to remain in his system, and he wanted to do that while he's suspended, I don't really even care about that. Who cares? You're not active. I just don't care. But the fact that whatever he was doing, he pissed hot. Here's what I think happened with the Turinabol. I think that the testing got more sensitive. I think that he had been using a regimen that he knew he could beat the tests with, where it was something short acting and it would get out of his system really quick. Listen, he was cheating his whole career, right? He just was. I think that what we're seeing right now, where guys are almost beating him, is Jon Jones off juice, but at least partially. This is a less enhanced version of Jon Jones. But the bottom line is, had he not gotten all of these scandals, he would have been the biggest star in the UFC. Plain and simple. An undefeated guy. Both his brothers are in the NFL. He's just running through people. If he never had any scandals, he would be worth a tremendous amount of money. But the bottom line is, dude, you get paid what you're worth. Like that. That's just a fact, right? Like, how do you think Conor McGregor was able to get the deal he got? It's because he's worth it, right? He actually had serious leverage. So when he says, I'm retiring, you remember how many times Conor said, I'm just going to hang it up now. I'm just not going to fight. That is, like I've said in the Henry Cejudo videos, that is your negotiating ploy. If you're a fighter in the UFC, you have to have enough money to make them believe that you can retire. And then them say, geez, this guy's too valuable. We got to do what we need to do to get him back to fight. The threat needs to be credible, right? The threat has to be credible. Now, Jon Jones probably has enough money to make the threat credible. But the question is, are you valuable enough to the UFC to make them want to come back to the table? Or do they sell almost as many pay-per-views with someone else in your position, and then the more money that you want, it's just business, right? Like literally, this is the equation to the UFC. It's as simple as this, right? Literally this simple. Okay, when Jon Jones fights for the light heavyweight title, we do an average of 700,000 pay-per-view buys, right? Like let's say 700,000 when he headlines. Okay, now when this guy headlines, we do 500,000 pay-per-view buys, right? So let's say this guy wins the light heavyweight title. We do 500,000, okay? So the extra 200,000 times $60 is blah, 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 okay? This is how much we're paying this guy. Now, Jon is making this much, okay? So at the number he's getting right now, that number is met equally by the number of pay-per-views extra that he sells, right? So he's getting paid exactly what he's worth because the 5 million is whatever, whatever it is, more. Well, if it was 200,000 more buys, then yeah, he's not getting paid as much. But whatever. The point being is it's a business decision, right? And it needs to be a very large gap for Jon to have a lot of leverage to say, I'm not getting paid enough. Look at my impact. I'm a needle mover. Remember when Dana said that about Nate Diaz? Or he was like, he's a needle mover now. And then all of a sudden, Nate Diaz got his really big deal. Like Nate Diaz made $10 million for the second Conor McGregor fight in a one-shot deal because he beat Conor the first time. So they needed him. They really needed him to participate in the second fight. And so he could command a gigantic payday. They needed him to be the other half of the Conor McGregor fight. So he had tremendous leverage. If he's like, I'm not going to do it. And they're like, no, we need you to do it. Like, this is a huge money fight. Okay. Is Jon Jones in that position right now? Is he? I don't know. I have no idea what his impact is on pay-per-views, but that's what this conversation comes down to. So like when Jon Jones says, I want to fight Francis Ngannou and I want more money, I don't think that's an unreasonable request because that is going to do some fucking pay-per-views, right? Straight up. That's going to do pay-per-views. But Jon Jones gets back end on pay-per-views, so he would make more money naturally, right? Unless I'm misunderstanding something. Like unless I'm misunderstanding that, because he would be going up to heavyweight and he wouldn't be the title holder, then he wouldn't get back end. Like as long as they gave him his championship deal where he's getting back end points on the pay-per-view, I don't understand why Jon Jones would have a problem. He's going to get more money naturally by the additional pay-per-views that he sells from fighting Francis Ngannou versus Jan Blachowicz, right? He's got a couple big money fights out there. DC, if DC would take it, Izzy, Francis Ngannou. And you'll make more money because of the back end on that, right? So if Dana's position is just like, dude, you can make your own destiny. Sell the fight well. Fight these guys that like we make fights. If you want to fight Francis Ngannou, let's do it. You'll do extra pay-per-views. Why are you asking for more money? That seems like a reasonable position, but I don't know the full details of his deal. So, I don't know. Like, but the bottom line is Dana has clearly just been like, give me a break. Like Jon went about this really poorly, right? He tried, like, just the way he did it on Twitter, right? Break out the money bags. You're like, have that conversation offline. Why? Like, see, some people think that winning in Twitter means winning in life. Okay. Now, sometimes getting the crowd on your side is the correct way to play it from a negotiation standpoint. In this case, it's not. In this case, the UFC is the one you need to convince, and they are dollars and cents. They are, is this a big enough fight that we will pay extra for? Why would you go on Twitter and do that? Like, did you what? I mean, I don't understand. I mean, I guess Conor kind of did that with the Mayweather thing, but like, did he really think that that's the same thing? Like, him fighting Francis Ngannou is the same as Conor McGregor crossing over into another sport to fight Floyd Mayweather? Like, that's a completely different thing. So what he should have done is he should have reached out to the UFC directly and said, listen, Francis Ngannou looks unbelievable. I've been talking about going up to heavyweight. I think that would sell a fuckload of pay-per-views, but that's a really scary challenge. I think it's fair for me to get compensated a little bit better, right? How about 8 million instead of 5, right? It's not unreasonable. Dana does not respond well to the ultimatums. He just doesn't. Like this, he just doesn't, man. He's a guy that's like he's a fighter himself, and he's a CEO that has not made that a secret. These guys are not good at reading people, right? If you read the person, you're like, what is my most likely, strong outcome here? At least first go to the UFC and have the conversation before you try to play ultimatum games with Dana, right? Because Dana's just like, fuck you, I don't care what you do. We have you under contract, okay? Like if you want to fight, you fight under your contract. That's how this works, right? You are not, Dana's basically taking the stance, you're not valuable enough to play the hard stance. Like, you're just not. And it's because, listen, dude, he's popped dirty for steroids like 5 times. Multiple DUIs. Like, he did it to himself. Dana's right. Dana is right. He did it to himself. So, it's not unreasonable for Jon to ask for more money, but it's also not unreasonable for Dana to be honest with him about what he's actually worth. And it's not unreasonable for that to piss Jon off and him to make threats about leaving the title on the table. Just because there's a disagreement and everybody's mad, it doesn't mean that there has to be one party that's right? They can both be right, and they're both fighters, and so them ending up in divided places doesn't mean either of them are wrong. It's just a predictable outcome, right? So anyway, that's what I got. If you like the channel and you want to subscribe, do it. I actually really appreciate it if you guys subscribe. And then I don't even think I said subscribe right there. I don't even think I said the fucking words. Subscribe, ring the bell, because then you'll hear when I put other fire videos like this up. So let's go. Do it. Thank you guys. Peace.